Okay, so yesterday, you guys were to do the first four causes of the Civil War on your chart. Okay, now we're doing the last four together. So if you watch this YouTube video, I'm going to run through the answers with you. I actually made this PowerPoint super easy too because it underlines the important aspects of each event as well. So we're going to go to, well, I'm in the wrong class. We're going to go to U.S. history. We're going to go to the Civil War folder, and today is part 2. You'll open up the PowerPoint, causes of the Civil War part 2. Okay, let me make sure that you guys can see this. New share. Okay. Okay, so you should, oh, I hope you can see this. Okay, so they go in order today. Sorry, there was one that was like skipped and then moved forward yesterday, but it just made more sense to put it in that order. So let's go ahead and do the next one. So your chart, you're writing what the event was and how it caused the Civil War. So John Brown's raid, okay? Last week when we did the slavery crash course video, John Green talked about how there were several planned rebellions and revolts, either by slaves themselves or abolitionists as well, to attempt to put an end to slavery, right? So this is one of the most historical rebellions. So John Brown led a small army of 18 men to a town called Harper's Ferry in Virginia in 1859. The plan was to seize arms and ammunition of the federal arsenal that was there and arm the slaves in order to rebel. The current, at that time, Lieutenant Colonel, who will eventually be the Confederate General, Robert E. Lee, managed to capture Brown. A few of his men were killed. They were able to, the raid was able to hold hostage a few people, and they killed 2 citizens. But Robert E. Lee captured John Brown. He was then tried for treason, which treason means that you go against your country. And then he was publicly executed. Okay, so here's why his rebellion was so important. It's been documented that before his execution, he came out and said, "I am now quite certain that the crimes of this land will never be purged away but with blood." What that means is the issue of slavery will not be solved without blood. And that's exactly what happens with the Civil War. Okay, so what does all that mean? So John Brown was considered a martyr, or someone who died for their cause in the North. A lot of the Northerners, kind of rallied behind him. They thought he was courageous. To the South's perspective, he was a madman trying to cause havoc, trying to take away their livelihood, right, and so forth. So how does this lead into the Civil War? Well, again, those perspectives were very different between the North and the South in terms of the raid. And Southerners were scared that slaves were going to start uprising and revolts more frequently. Okay. Next one on our chart, Dred Scott. This one's kind of long and complicated, but I underlined some key points for you. Okay. So who was Dred Scott? Dred Scott was born into slavery in 1799, and then he moved to several states that were considered slave states at the time, both Alabama and Missouri, with his slave owner. So his slave owner moved a lot. That slave owner will die, and an army surgeon named Emerson will buy him and moves him from Illinois to Wisconsin. Both of these states are considered free. Dred Scott also marries in a civil union at this time. It was very taboo or unconventional to have slaves marrying this way, but if you were able to have the means or the legitimacy to do it, I mean, it could be done. So Emerson kind of supported Dred Scott in that opportunity to marry his wife. So when they're doing all this traveling, both Dred Scott and his wife are moving from one free state which is Illinois, to another one, Wisconsin. Okay. When Emerson, the Army surgeon, dies, Dred Scott and his wife attempt to pay or purchase their freedom from the widow. The widow, in turn, refuses to take the sale. So both Dred Scott and his wife will file lawsuits against the widow, claiming that because they lived in free states, they should be free. The court case will go all the way up to the Supreme Court, and that Supreme Court case is called Scott versus Sanford. And the Supreme Court declares that because slaves are not citizens, they're not allowed to sue in court, and they are not protected by the law. Okay. In this court case too, it was considered that Missouri Compromise is unconstitutional, and Congress has no legal bounds to ban slavery. Okay. It will not be until the 13th Amendment is created, and that doesn't happen until the end of the Civil War. Okay. Moving on to the next one, we have Abraham Lincoln's election. This one's another complicated one. Abraham Lincoln and Stephen Douglas both run for Senate in 1858. They travel and hold 7 different public debates talking about the issue of slavery. Stephen Douglas supported the idea of popular sovereignty, that states that are earning statehood could choose whether or not they wanted to be free or slave. Lincoln did not agree with that, but he also didn't believe in forbidding slavery. He believed that the spread of slavery through these new territories should be banned. Okay, so no future slave territories. Okay, so he doesn't win the seat of Senate, he loses that, but he gains popularity among the Northerners. So in the election of 1860, if you want to write maybe on your chart here, 1860, okay, this is right before the Civil War. Southern Democrats wanted, obviously, slavery in the new Western territories, okay? Northern Democrats wanted the idea of popular sovereignty, which is the politician Stephen Douglas's idea. But 8 Southern states will withdraw from the Democratic Convention and appoint their own politician, and his name was John Breckinridge. So we also had border states, Delaware, Kentucky, and Missouri. They created their own political party and nominated their own politician, John Bell. So we end up having 4 different political presidential candidates for this election. So things are going to get really crazy here, okay? In the South, the election was between 2 candidates, John Bell and John Breckinridge. In the North, the election was between Abraham Lincoln and Stephen Douglas. Abraham Lincoln's name didn't appear on several Southern ballots. Lincoln will win all the free states except New Jersey. Okay. Lincoln wins the presidential race without earning one single electoral vote from the South. Causes. Okay. The South is furious because they felt that their votes were not being counted toward the presidential election. Okay. Last one. The attack on Fort Sumter. This is considered the first real raid of the Civil War. Okay. So there was a fort, a federal fort located in South Carolina. I know I've mentioned South Carolina a few times in previous lessons. We'll continue to talk about South Carolina. They are the first to secede or formally withdraw from the Union, the United States. They are the first of many to join the Confederacy. Okay, so South Carolina has already been an issue for the Union. Confederate forces will prevent Union forces from resupplying that fort, so they block the fort. And Major Robert Anderson begs Lincoln for supplies. Please give us supplies so that we can protect this fort. Okay. Jefferson Davis, the appointed president for the Confederacy, promises there will be war if Lincoln interferes with this block. Lincoln decides by April 6th of that year, 1860, to send supplies. Confederate President Jefferson Davis orders the Confederate General Beauregard to demand that the Union forces surrender, and Anderson refuses that surrender. Oh, I'm sorry, I said 1860. I meant 1861. I apologize. By April 12th, so just a few days later, Beauregard fires on Fort Sumter, and within 24 hours of fighting, Anderson will surrender. No man dies in this battle. One is accidentally killed. And Lincoln sees this raid and blockage as an open act of rebellion and calls on each state to recruit volunteers for the Civil War. The Upper South, considered Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, and Arkansas, will secede or formally withdraw from the Union, and they refuse to send men to fight against the Southerners. This is the event that sparks the beginning of the Civil War. Okay, so next week we will talk more about the secession and the creation of the Confederacy. We'll also talk about Lincoln's inaugural address, so what was said to the United States and the Union in particular about the Civil War. And then we'll go into like major events during the Civil War and so forth, okay? So when you're done, you're gonna get all 8 of these done. You'll scan it in or type it in and then turn it in. So if you're not able to get it all done today, try to get it done through the weekend, because this is 30 points of your grade and all you had to do is take notes, and I gave you the answers. But if you have any questions, just let me know or message me on Schoology. Have a good day.